The election of one of the most controversial presidents in the United States of America's history is now actually in the history books. Donald J. Trump was indeed inaugurated yesterday, and today he has completed his first official day in office, and having done that, has signed already some 200 executive orders, bringing, of course, to light some campaign promises of immigration, climate change, health matters, and just the like. Now, amongst that as well is some 1,500 insurrectionists who are all pardoned today, sparking some controversy among residents here in the United States of America. And tonight we have a discussion with a panel of expert Bahamians who are living here in Washington, D.C., who will, of course, tackle the issues and give our take on how this impacts the Bahamas and really how it impacts the entire world. Good evening to all of you. Welcome to Washington, D.C. for another special edition of The Rundown. We are in the historic Watergate building, of course, overlooking, I keep saying it because it's so magnificent, overlooking the historic Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. It's going to be an exciting show tonight as we take on these issues that are sparking controversy pretty much all over the world. Donald Trump not wasting time. Those promises he is now signing into existence to ensure the United States of America enforces those wishes and promises. Today, pretty much a working day for him to get through all of those orders. Our Devontae Hanna is, of course, live for us down at the White House with the latest. Devontae.
Well, of course, behind me is the White House, where President Trump has been for the entire day fulfilling his mandate to ensure that America's future is bright. We know that yesterday he signed 50 executive orders, and one that we've been particularly concerned about is the fact that the United States is exiting from the Paris Agreement. Now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is addressing that. Here's what he had to say.
The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty. We're going to save over $1 trillion by withdrawing from that treaty.
That's just one of the executive orders signed by President Trump on Inauguration Day, raising concern in the Bahamas. The United States withdrawal from the Paris Agreement could leave the country vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change, according to experts. And tonight, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, sharing with ZNS the government remains resolute in its efforts to combat the global issue.
We will continue to work with like-minded individuals and countries on this matter. Within the domestic theater of the United States, again, that's their province, whatever they decide to do. But the science is real, and we'll simply continue working, and we are certain in the longer term that in the best interest of our country, we'll protect our country on the issue of climate change.
President Trump also revealing a new plan to cut back on illegal migration in the United States with immediate effect. Addressing thousands of supporters in the Capital One building on Monday, he announced the closure of the southern border.
All over the world, they're emptying their prisons into our country. They're emptying their mental institutions into our country. It stops as of 1 o'clock this afternoon.
The Bahamas now bracing for an increase in illegal migrants landing in country en route to the United States.
The Bahamas is prepared to meet any influx of that nature and will defend its interests as such.
And Minister Mitchell also clarifying the country has no position on reports of Herschel Walker reportedly being appointed U.S. ambassador to the Bahamas.
Well, there's no nomination before us from this present administration, and the last one, I think, expired when the last term of the last president expired, or the last Congress expired.
Well, Clint, I know Union, yes, we'll discuss some of those executive orders, but of course the minister is saying that he just wants to ensure that the relationship between the Bahamas and the United States remains one that is strong. From outside the White House for the Bahamas, for the rundown, that is, Clint, back to you.
Thank you, Devontae. Yes, indeed, is a rundown. So a couple of things we're hearing for the first time from our Foreign Affairs Minister that I think make some interesting notes that we ought to bear in mind with our discussion tonight. One, that is, we've been having this discussion here in Washington all week about this proposed new ambassador, Herschel Walker, and what does that mean for the Bahamas? This announcement coming early, and we're wondering all about it. Well, the reality of that is, here from Foreign Affairs, no official request has been made to the cabinet, the government of the Bahamas. And then it reminds you, well, yeah, that's true, eh? Because when that announcement So he now has to formally make that request happen. And I think maybe we're moving a bit faster than he expects us to move, because that hasn't happened as yet. So that's the groundwork for what we're going to talk about. And then, of course, the fact that, you know, immigration, we've heard some things that he spoke about that I think is going to make pretty good sense when we address the issue. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to meet our panel, and we're going to talk to our panel about these issues. But that framework is important because that's going to go somewhere in our discussion. So our social media, those of you on Facebook, in the Lions Den, those of you who are on YouTube, welcome to The Rundown. We want to hear your discussions. Please give us your comments, and we'll read them as we go through the show tonight. We're back from Washington, D.C. right after the break. Stay close.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
We're here at the Nassau Village Community Center project, where over the past 17 months, we've hired over 20 Bahamian subcontractors to bring this beautiful project to fruition.
I've been living in Nassau Village for more than 19 years, and to see a project like this bring great joy and pride to me.
This state-of-the-art multi-purpose community center will serve as a crime-fighting initiative in the community. Also help with the education of our kids in this community and a hurricane shelter.
Yeah, and it also shows what we as Bahamians can achieve when we work hand in hand with each other.
We have the technical know-how, and we can pretty much deliver on any project here in the Bahamas or in the world.
Bahamas Striping, a Bahamian company, they prove that they believe in Bahamians.
Based on the outcome of this project, I don't think they're disappointed in giving a small person an opportunity to do a job such as this.
The more opportunity they get, the more opportunity we will get.
If you look around and see the work done so far, it just shows what we as Bahamians can do.
Make your company representative stand out through an embroidery design on your uniforms from Janae's Uniform Center, Chesapeake Road. Janae's utilizes the latest state-of-the-art embroidery technology to monogram large and small quantities of shirts, caps, bags, and other articles. If you don't already have a digitized logo, Janae's can design and digitize your idea and bring it to life. Then install the logo of your choice from their large selections of 27 stock colors of golf shirts in cotton or dry fit, caps, or workwear. Call 394-8385 or 6 or visit www.janaes.com.
Let's go.
At Frame Studio, as soon as you enter the door, we showcase any individual that comes in there and make it feel like they are at home. The space itself is 1,800 square foot. Our psych wall, which is industry standard also, is 24 feet wide. You could do anything that you can possibly think of. At Frame Studio, under our theme, Now Create More, we look at Frame Studio as a canvas. And any artist knows a canvas is blank, and then you create whatever you want to do, right? So we have where you could rent tools. We even have workstations that people could rent out. To anyone inspiring to do what I've done, or what my colleagues have done, or any other journey, I would say to you, don't be afraid. The worst someone can actually tell you is no. So if you have a vision, you have an idea, not everyone will get it. But if you believe in your vision, you believe in your idea, I say go wholeheartedly at it.
For more information about the Creative Entrepreneurs Initiative and the Crafting the Bahamas workshops, email info@sbdcbahamas.com or call us at 461-7232.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
Welcome back to all of you here in Washington, D.C., the Rundown. And, of course, our discussion centers around those Remember, those executive orders signed by President Donald Trump, the implications on countries like the Bahamas and around the world. And of course, the discussion tonight, I think we're going to be having an exciting discussion by two astute gentlemen who perhaps knows it better than most of us. Their Bahamians living here in Washington, D.C. and making major ways in their positions. My guest tonight, my first guest is, of course, the ambassador and permanent representative of the Bahamas to the Organization of American States, Mr. Chet Nemore, and, of course, Mr. Austin Cooper, president of Cooper Strategic Affairs Incorporated, the firm that provides legislative, political, and communication counsel in Washington. Gentlemen, welcome to The Rundown. It is my pleasure to have both of you here.
Thank you. Looking forward to speaking with you.
So, I think let's set the framework, right? Because 200 executive orders one day, that's a busy first day. It's a busy first day. But let's talk about some of the ones that pretty stand out to us. I'll read a couple of them off. We already talked about the January 6th pardons. And of course, he pardons some 1,500 people who were involved in the January 6th riots, fulfilling, of course, a campaign promise that he made that he would do so. Then, of course, there's immigration, reinterpreting the 14th Amendment, which grants citizenship to all born on American soil. Trump ended birthright citizenship by an executive order. And this has already drawn legal action from Democratic lawyers. He also declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexican border. And, of course, energy. Trump withdrew for the U.S. from Paris Climate Accord, saying that ends, and they're going to save some $1 trillion on using the term drill, baby, drill. Trump has declared a national energy emergency to increase domestic energy production. Then, of course, on the healthcare side, he's saying there will be only two genders going forward, male and female. And, of course, he removed the United States from the World Health Organization. Federal workforce. He ordered all U.S. government departments and agencies, employees who are working remotely, to return, get back on the job, return to work. You can't work from home, can't work from your bedroom, come back to work. And, of course, TikTok. Trump extended the deadline for TikTok to be banned by 90 days. On foreign assistance, Trump suspended U.S. foreign assistance for review to see if they align with his agenda. That means people who get foreign aid and foreign assistance, he's going to now review that, and it's going to stop if you don't believe it aligns with his agenda. External revenue services. This was established to collect tariffs and other revenues from other nations. We heard them talking about that with Canada, some other nations as well. Will we be impacted by that? And then, of course, restoring names. Trump restored names that honor American greatness, all right? He established a Department of Government Efficiency, designated cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, restored the death penalty to protect public safety, reformed federal hiring process, rescissions of harmful execution orders done by previous presidents, ordered to hold former government officials accountable for elections interference. You talked about that not happening anymore. So it's a busy first day. Gentlemen, what say you? What of what I've read stands out to you the most that I guess kind of stirs your mind of thinking when you think about these executive orders? Let's begin with you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you again for the invite. You know, what first stands out of all of the 200 or so executive orders that the president has signed in his first 24, I guess almost 30 hours since he was sworn in, what stands out the most is, to me, the most offensive, and many of them are offensive, but the most offensive to me is to pardon the 1,500 insurrectionists. What happened on January 6, 2021 was illegal. It was a sitting president of the United States, a sitting, not a former, not a future, a sitting president of the United States who directed, even if it was indirectly, directed those people to head to the Capitol. Look, it's nothing wrong with protesting peacefully. They did not break the law by protesting right over here on the National Mall. They did not break the law by marching a mile and a half up to the Capitol. But that's where it should have stopped. It was illegal to enter the Capitol grounds that day. And to do what they did, Clint and Excellency, over 145 police officers were seriously injured.
One losing his life.
One losing his life. 2 or 3 others committed suicide. within the 72, 96 hours after that, you know, to depression, shock. I have a cousin from the Bahamas who is a Capitol Hill police officer.
Wow.
He was not at the Capitol, but he was across the street on duty at one of the House office buildings. So, you know, for me, this was personal, not only as an American, personal because I have a relative, you know, our homeboy, who was there, and just offensive. Elections, this is a democracy. And what should have happened in 2020 should have been a smooth transfer of power, and it was not. What we witnessed with former President Biden, what happened, you know, yesterday, and he with the former vice president, that is how a democracy works.
Let me ask you, because if people heard him through the campaign, he was gearing up to do this. Does this come as a surprise to Americans that this happened?
No, not at all, not at all. Look, I think it was the poet Maya Angelou who once said that when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. You know, we have known Donald Trump. In 1972, under a Republican administration, Richard Nixon, he and his father in their real estate business was sued in New York State by the U.S. Department of Justice for discriminating against blacks. This is 1972. When he was elected in 2016, you know, one might say that it was, you know, a fluke. You know, people didn't really know, you know, they watched The Apprentice and thought he was a successful businessman. But what happened last year, November 5th, no excuse. No excuse. These orders, what he's going to be doing moving forward, was spelled out in Project 2025. And these, as you referenced, Clint, are issues that he campaigned on. So no one should be surprised that on day one, these 1,500 insurrectionists were released. And mark my word, before the end of February, maybe before the end of the month, he's going to have these protesters who have been released today at the White House. They're going to be honored and they're going to be celebrated as heroes.
Wow. Ambassador, I want to bring you in because there are a couple of these executive orders that impact our diplomatic relations internationally as international agencies and bodies. The World Health Organization has done an amazing job for countries around the world when it comes to the health and it comes to the pandemic, and they've done a yeoman's job. There are other platforms. We talk about migration, where we have issues going on in countries like Haiti, where the instability, people cannot be returned to those locations, and yet there is this plan of mass deportations. You are our representative at an international body. Any of these things concern you, or at least raise some flags for you as to how this is going to come across and the impact of it?
Well, firstly, thank you ever so much for having me as a guest on the rundown. I think the first thing we'd want to say is, you know, we approach our relationship with the United States, which is an indispensable relationship. We have a very close relationship and we have a partnership with the United States. Within the multilateral sphere, they play a considerable role. They have, post-World War II, had taken on a neoliberalism approach where they were leadership. What we're seeing through some of the recent actions appears to be a little bit more of a unilateral approach, an individualistic approach. But there are some features that are reminiscent of the traditional American hegemony, meaning that you see the conversations about the 2017 tax cuts. You see the conversations about the changes in some economic initiatives. So there are some of those mainstay American features. The American first approach that we're seeing right now is something that we don't, you know, the Bahamas doesn't get involved with the domestic affairs of any country, but we continue to monitor these developments. You'd mentioned the swath of executive orders. There are some that stand out, that comes into the realm of the multilateral sphere, and there are some that we attend to bilaterally. But you started out, and thank you so much for establishing the framework, because it's the framework that we have to operate within.
Yeah.
And a number of these initiatives, you and guests, my colleague here, Mr. Cooper, mentioned that we're coming off of a heated campaign. And we approach this, we have to be very practical. When you come up off a campaign, campaigns inspire. Executive orders aspire. And governments implement. So how do we get those three to come together? We're seeing a first stage. Many of these executive orders require congressional approvals. They also require heavy movements in internal operations. So it's not something that you can spin around at the drop of a dime or at the signing of a pen. There are some certain actions that are, reactions take place, and some institutional mechanisms move a little bit quicker than others.
So you're saying just signing these executive orders won't be it for some of these areas that are being addressed?
What I'm really saying is that we need to take a look at the details. Take, for instance, you mentioned WHO. I served as the ambassador to the United Nations during a period when the Trump administration was in. During a period when we signed on to COVAX, and WHO was charged with the distribution, and there were bottlenecks. So the actions that some member states took was, you say that I'm going to withdraw because I want you to take immediate action. I want you to respond. In order for you to withdraw from some of these mechanisms, there are statutes, provisions. WHO, I think it's Article 7, requires 1 year's cooling off period. So it's not something, again, you sign it, you also have to advise officially the Director General or the WHO directly, this is my intention, and you have 1 year for that process to unfold.
What are some of the advantages of being a part of WHO? You served, obviously, as our ambassador under the Trump first administration. What are some of the advantages of these international organizations?
Well, the irony as well is I'm now the ambassador to the OAS, and the regional entity that is PAHO, which essentially gets some of its inventions, gets some of its thrust from WHO. You leave yourself exposed, and I think COVID served as the prime example as to why you need a WHO. You may deal with an epidemic. An epidemic is something that is probably controllable on certain spheres, certain continents. A pandemic, the mere essence of a pandemic, it's worldwide.
Right.
And you need a World Health Organization to deal with world health issues. Withdrawal from that may well serve as a economic, financial sort of carrot and stick arrangement, and it may well also be a signal to some of these agencies to get your house in order, and it also may also be a concern to the United States as well, because if the United States, being a leader in so many facets, withdraws themselves from multilateral organizations and from being at the table, other countries fill that vacuum.
That's right.
And they may not. I think it was Antony Blinken in his exit interview literally about 2 weeks ago said while he was leaving, I think it was with the French president, indicated that should the United States withdraw itself and remove itself from being engaged, then that creates a vacuum for partners that does not always have the same type of approach that the United States have, or that has the same mindset, considerations, ethos, policies, and approaches that the United States has. So if you're fearful of there being some other countries coming in and you're withdrawing yourself, then you're creating a vacuum for some group, some country, so some entity to fill the void.
He has nominated in his cabinet who many people would describe as more than professionals, they're loyalists to him. And do you believe that these people who cabinet picks, I should say, who are all waiting to be ratified, Marco Rubio, I think was ratified already as Secretary of State, will have the gumption to be able to say to him, no, President Trump, I believe this is important for us. My recommendation is that we stick and stay. What do you think, Cooper?
Well, if they don't, they will learn that they have been dismissed. If we can go by President Trump's first term, they will learn that they have been dismissed, not in a telephone call, not being called to the Oval Office. They'll learn on social media that your services are no longer needed, because he did that with several folks during his first term. Look, I happen to think of all of his President Trump's nominations to date. I don't agree with Marco Rubio on a lot, former Senator, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio as of this morning. But you can't argue that it's not qualified.
Right.
And it's okay to have policy differences with qualified people. Some of these other nominations, for Department of Defense, that's a joke.
What about Health Secretary?
Robert Kennedy Jr. Another.
He perhaps is probably supporting this move to come out of WHO.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, Excellency made a good point in terms of how our withdrawing from these, multilateral types of organizations leaves us exposed. You referenced, Clint, COVID-19. That number, 19, wasn't just pulled out of thin air. There were previously 18 versions of COVID. So who's to say there won't be another strain of COVID or some other issue that can become a global pandemic again? One reason that we were so ill prepared with COVID was I forgot what the disease was, the Ebola during the Obama administration, and President Obama put together a worldwide coalition similar to the World Health Organization, and that was key to the Ebola numbers remaining relatively low here in the United States and globally. One of the first things that President Trump did on day one and day two of his first term was to dismantle that and to defund that. And the rest, as they say, is history. Look, he won the election. It wasn't my choice, but he won the election. I don't believe the election was stolen. I think he won fairly the election. He's entitled to nominate whomever he wants. But he has a responsibility to the American people to nominate not just loyalists, but people who are qualified and who are not jokes.
We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of these orders that impact the Bahamas, or that could potentially trickle down and have an impact on the Bahamas, and get your take on that and how do we address it. You're watching The Rundown from Washington, D.C. We're back after this. Stay close.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
Hi, I'm Kizzy Hanna, and I am the CEO of Nail Envy Salon Studio and Nail Envy Academy. My business offers education for beginner level, intermediate, and advanced level nail classes for those persons who would like to become nail technicians and continue that education for those persons that are in the professional atmosphere already. So our curriculum has already been vetted and approved by the National Accreditation and Equivalency Council of the Bahamas. What distinguishes Nail Envy Academy from the competitors, we are really focused on relaying our information in a proper and conducive environment, making sure that our students are getting that one-on-one attention that is needed to be able to send them out into the field and be able to be successful in their occupation. I am so passionate about what I do because I want young women to know that not everyone has to have tertiary education. You can throw your whole self at something and bring a difference to your industry.
For more information about the Creative Entrepreneurs Initiative and the Crafting the Bahamas workshops, email info@sbdcbahamas.com or call us at 461-7232.
We're here at the Nassau Village Community Center project, where over the past 17 months, we've hired over 20 Bahamian subcontractors to bring this beautiful project to fruition.
I've been living in Nassau Village for more than 19 years, and to see a project like this bring great joy and pride to me.
This state-of-the-art multi-purpose community center will serve as a crime-fighting initiative in the community, also help with the education of our kids in this community, and a hurricane shelter.
Yeah, and it also shows what we as Bahamians can achieve when we work hand in hand with each other.
We have the technical know-how, and we can pretty much deliver on any project here in the Bahamas or in the world.
Bahamas Pipe and the Bahamian Company, they prove that they believe in Bahamians.
Based on the outcome of this project, I don't think they're disappointed in giving a small person an opportunity to do a job such as this.
The more opportunity they get, the more opportunity we will get.
If you look around and see the work done so far, it just shows what we as Bahamians can do.
Make your company representative stand out through an embroidery design on your uniforms from Janae's Uniform Center, Chesapeake Road. Janae's utilizes the latest state-of-the-art embroidery technology to monogram large and small quantities of shirts, caps, bags, and other articles. If you don't already have a digitized logo, Janae's can design and digitize your idea and bring it to life. Then install the logo of your choice from their large selections of 27 stock colors of golf shirts in cotton or dry fit, caps, or workwear. Call 394-8385 or 6 or visit www.janaes.com.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
And welcome back here to Washington, D.C. on a cold night. I think it's a little warmer than last night, but it's nonetheless cold. All day was what? I think 12 degrees? Was it 12 degrees? 12 degrees. And people walking around like nothing, like it's just another Tuesday in Washington, D.C. But of course, we're having a discussion on these executive orders. I think every media house, we've been watching them even while we're here, is talking and having these discussions tonight about these executive orders and their impact on people, various organizations, and of course the Bahamas, no doubt, any different by that. And my guess is, of course, Austin Cooper, president of Cooper Strategic Affairs Incorporated, linked to the Bahamas, and right here in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, our ambassador to the Organization of American States. He's our permanent representative as well, Chet Nemore, who's been, I call him a career diplomat for us. He's been in the Foreign Service. How many years now, Chet?
18 years in foreign service.
Wow,
my background is actually in economics. I served 18 years in economics as well.
Wow. Distinguished career.
So the Bahamians doing big things here in the United States of America. Let's talk about some of these policies and how they impact Bahamians or the Bahamas. And I think the first one we want to discuss, obviously, is we're going to talk about immigration, is, of course, is reversal for automatic citizenship to any child born on American soil. And many Bahamians have benefited from that because their children have been born in America, either by them working here, or by them being assigned to work here, or by them shopping here, or by them just coming over here. And they've been able to benefit from their children having American citizenship. and he's hoping to stop that. And your take on that? Let's begin with you, Cooper.
You know, again, no surprises here. This is something that he said that he was going to do. You know, I find it offensive. I believe it is part of his plan to decolor America. I don't know that he would be as concerned with European countries as he is, I believe, with folks coming from Africa, coming from the Caribbean, coming from the Bahamas, etc. So no surprises here. You know, Your Excellency made a good point. Excellency made a good point earlier. You know, President Trump is if nothing else, he's an excellent showman. You know, he loves to razzle and dazzle, and his supporters are, very pleased with the fact that, and they're bragging in their homes tonight as they head back to their respective locations, having attended the inauguration. They are bragging about the great work that he is doing to make America great again. Many of them not fully understanding the negative impact that some of these executive orders that he signed is going to have on them. So I think a lot of people are in for a great surprise. Excellency is right. Some of these will be challenged in Congress. Some of these will also be challenged by the courts, especially, for example, this denaturalization.
Interesting you say that. I'm looking at the headlines behind us, and we see the networks, U.S. networks, talking about it, that some 22 states have already sued the government for this actual particular action. So people aren't just sitting down and taking it.
No, and and they shouldn't. This is a time, Clint, Excellency, as you both know, and our viewers, not to be depressed, not to have our heads in the sand, but to stand up for the for the Bahamas, and to make certain, to bet as we can, that none of the policies of the current administration or any administration, I would say this if the former vice president had been elected, our job is to make sure or to minimize any negative impact on our beloved country, the Bahamas.
Ambassador.
Well, again, you'll have the devil's always in the details. There is as you had mentioned, I think the article is 14 within the U.S. Constitution. As it pertains to Bahamians, there are a few things that are really attributed to Bahamians when it comes to Bahamians being born abroad. Those circumstances are not always contrived. Bahamians who are born abroad are sometimes born abroad because there were certain medical concerns, and they came over for medical reasons. Then there are those Bahamians who are living or working or residing in the United States, and they naturally have a local doctor, and they're able to enjoy the opportunity of having their children born in the United States. Those instances where you think it's contrived that people go abroad specifically to give birth,
right?
Is few and far between.
Of course.
The other part of it is a lot of these legislations are dealt with at the state level. Then the Bahamas also has a facility, which is a pre-clearance facility, and Customs, Border, and Patrol have been using certain discretions that, again, does not necessarily portend that we will have or have had a greater incidence of Bahamians being born abroad.
In other words, you look like you're about to give it up. They're going to tell you can't come over. That's reality.
Don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it.
Again, these domestic policies, we monitor them, and we give advice to Bahamians who may find themselves in those circumstances, and we try to give them the best advice in order for them to make an individual decision.
I want to start on this next topic, but I probably may have to go to a break because it would probably take too long. But I'll give it to you, and then we'll go to a break. And that is, I want you to start commenting on this first, Ambassador, and that is the Paris Climate Accord. This is I think, near and dear for the Bahamas. Our Prime Minister has been all over the world championing this cause, trying to get attention, trying to get necessary funding to help the Bahamas. And then this. We'll go to a break. We'll come back and we'll have You're watching The Rundown. We're back and after this. Stay close.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
We're here at the Nassau Village Community Center project, where over the past 17 months, we've hired over 20 Bahamian subcontractors to bring this beautiful project to fruition.
I've been living in Nassau Village for more than 19 years, and to see a project like this bring great joy and pride to me.
This state-of-the-art multi-purpose community center will serve as a crime-fighting initiative in the community. Also help with the education of our kids in this community and a hurricane shelter.
Yeah, and it also shows what we as Bahamians can achieve when we work hand in hand with each other.
We have the technical know-how, and we can pretty much deliver on any project here in the Bahamas or in the world.
Bahamas Striping, a Bahamian company, they prove that they believe in Bahamians.
Based on the outcome of this project, I don't think they're disappointed in giving a small person an opportunity to do a job such as this.
The more opportunity they get, the more opportunity we will get.
If you look around and see the work done so far, it just shows what we as Bahamians can do.
After 30 years of banking, I've decided to take a leap of faith. I moved from banking into an untapped industry, which is manufacturing in the Bahamas. And now we are standing on 3 acres of land on which we're going to be putting the Bahamas' first end-to-end plastic recycling company, Eden Recycling and Manufacturing Company Limited. Eden has 2 arms, recycling and manufacturing.
This is groundbreaking for us. It's never been done before. It really makes a difference, not only in the Bahamas, but even around the world. This is not just a project that we're doing so that we can make a couple of dollars. We want to make sure that it benefits those who come after us. In future generations, we hope that this is a small vision, that they will take it and they'll expand on it. We can have the formula for what it means to do end-to-end recycling in the Bahamas, in the region, and even if we have to export these ideas and thoughts and concepts even into the U.S.
Make your company representative stand out through an embroidery design on your uniforms from Janae's Uniform Center, Chesapeake Road. Janae's utilizes the latest state-of-the-art embroidery technology to monogram large and small quantities of shirts, caps, bags, and other articles. If you don't already have a digitized logo, Janae's can design and digitize your idea and bring it to life. Then install the logo of your choice from their large selections of 27 stock colors of golf shirts in cotton or dry fit, caps, or workwear. Call 394-8385 or 6 or visit www.janaes.com.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
Welcome back to the show live from Washington, D.C. We're continuing our discussion, getting into it. Right before the break, Ambassador Nemore, we talked about climate change. I think that's the blow. Your response to that?
Well, you know, the first thing is this isn't the first occasion that we've had a U.S. administration withdraw from the Paris Accords. Mm-hmm. As you recall, prior to the first Trump administration, President Trump, President 45, there was a President 44. And President 44, Barack Obama, had made provisions, financial provisions, in advance of his departure that there were resources made available. The focus at this point in time should be on activating, effectuating the loss and damage fund. That involves, yes, you will have the United States likelihood of them not making a financial contribution, but there are activities that should go into place, and we should continue. I think the foreign minister used the word being resolute. We maintain our leading national interest, foreign policy interest, is the pursuit of measures that will address the climate crisis. We're in a crisis.
Yes, yes.
And how do you deal with the crisis? All hands on deck, all possibilities explored, and that also includes us knocking on the doors of some of the other funding agencies. You have the Green Climate Fund, you have the Adaptation Fund, we were given a menu of agencies and financing institutions that has trillions of dollars out there. So when one door is closed, another door is open. However, we maintain our partnership with the United States, and our bilateral initiatives may bear fruit. You have discussions where you have a multilateral forum that may have, because it's rules-based, there might be some provisions in there that does not meet with the favor.
Right.
So you then pursue bilateral initiatives. The foreign policy approach that has been in place for quite some time, and it applies to many of our small countries, is the exercise of soft diplomacy. We don't have militaries. We don't have economic might. Soft diplomacy includes having direct conversations, having network conversations. I might not know Clint Watson, but I know my good friend Austin can get in contact with Clint, and Clint can then come back to chat.
Right.
So there are many ways and many avenues, and I don't consider this. You know, I'm an economist. There's a theory by Joseph Schumpeter, and that theory is creative destruction. Sometimes, in order for you to be innovative, you have to challenge the system. You have to disaggregate the system and identify those components that work best for you. The job of a foreign policy officer is to pursue national interests.
That's right.
So, you know, we maintain a wonderful relationship with the United States. And as I've indicated to you before, this is a non-consecutive term of President Trump. The Bahamas is a known entity. And we also, at this point in time, may get a listening ear, one way or the other, with a Secretary of State.
Right.
And his state is what state? Florida.
Florida, that's right.
Florida is inundated now in the path of hurricanes.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's not as though there is, and again, there are other properties. Mar-a-Lago, for example, is in Florida.
That's right.
So there's some things that you do. I like what you gave as an example, particularly as you said, as the diplomats here have to be able to be creative in finding ways that the front door may be locked, and they may put a deadbolt on it, and they may nail a board against it, but there's a way to get through to the kitchen. And you have to be creative as negotiators for your country and figure out, well, you may say this is what the United States says, but when we sit down one-on-one, as two nations together who are neighbors and who have same things in common, we can get some funding, maybe not from that general fund, but from that state. Who may say, listen, we're going to work with the Bahamas because we're right next door and we both need to support each other. I like that because it means that all hope is not lost.
No, I wouldn't, throw our hands up and give up all hope. We have a bevy of a cadre of intelligent negotiators, and I would encourage them to maintain the pathway, the site. Give focus to also identifying where there is in funding, there is contributions in kind. There are technical assistance. There's also, like I said, the focus on building the house. So the only thing that's left for you is to move in. You have a turnkey arrangement when everything is set. So, you know, that's the approach that I would recommend. And as I'm a technician, not so much as a diplomat. But this is the time when the real definition of realpolitik is you adapt to the circumstances. Our ideology and some of our political ideological differences need not get in the way of our conjoined commonalities.
Good point there. Before we even run out of time, I want to get this last one here, and that, of course, is the pronouncement by then President-elect Trump of Herschel Walker as the new ambassador for the Bahamas. I want to get your take on that, Mr. Cooper. What do you make out of that? And also, does that necessarily mean that Bahamas is on his mind, that he named it first, or should we be concerned that beware, something's about to come out to that?
You know, look, it's not, Clint, Excellency, as you both know, it's not a president-elect between the time of the election and January 20th, when he, and hopefully one day it'll be she, here in America, take the oath of office. That is a time for him to decide who he's going to formally nominate. So it was not unusual for him to do this as a president-elect. You know, he nominated, as you are aware, the likely Secretary of Defense. He nominated during this time the now confirmed new Secretary of State from the former senator from Florida. The nominee, Herschel Walker, would not have been my first choice, or probably even 100th choice. But again, you know, the president-elect won the election. He's entitled to nominate whoever he wants. I just think that there are more qualified people out there. You know, I was surprised to learn in doing some research that there had not been a U.S. ambassador to the Bahamas in at least 10 years. I think 24, I think. And I happen to know State Representative Calvin Smyrie from Georgia, who was nominated in May of 2022 to be the U.S. ambassador to the Bahamas, and just got caught up in political logjam on the Hill. I'm hoping that with Republicans being in control of the House and the Senate, a more qualified nominee will be nominated and will be put in place and represent the United States in the Bahamas. If it is the current nominee, that's who the decision had to be made on whether you're going to accept the nomination or not. But if you do accept the nomination, then it'll be our job collectively to work with him and to educate him. There'll be a lot of education going on with this particular nominee if it goes through, and he will be the formal liaison to the Bahamas from the Trump administration, Vance administration.
Okay, they're running me to a break. Let's go to a break. When we come up, we'll wrap up. Stay with us.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
We're here at the NASA Village Community Center project, where over the past 17 months, we've hired over 20 Bahamian subcontractors to bring this beautiful project to fruition.
I've been living in NASA Village for more than 19 years, and to see a project like this bring great joy and pride to me.
This state-of-the-art multi-purpose community center will serve as a crime-fighting initiative in the community. Also help with the education of our kids in this community and a hurricane shelter.
Yeah, and it also shows what we as Bahamians can achieve when we work hand in hand with each other.
We have the technical know-how, and we can pretty much deliver on any project here in the Bahamas or in the world.
Bahamas Striping, a Bahamian company, they prove that they believe in Bahamians.
Based on the outcome of this project, I don't think they're disappointed in giving a small person an opportunity to do a job such as this.
The more opportunity they get, the more opportunity we will get.
If you look around and see the work done so far, it just shows what we as Bahamians can do.
Make your company representative stand out through an embroidery design on your uniforms from Janae's Uniform Center, Chesapeake Road. Janae's utilizes the latest state-of-the-art embroidery technology to monogram large and small quantities of shirts, caps, bags, and other articles. If you don't already have a digitized logo, Janae's can design and digitize your idea and bring it to life. Then install the logo of your choice from their large selections of 27 stock colors of golf shirts in cotton or dry fit, caps, or workwear. Call 394-8385 or 6 or visit www.janaes.com.
Mailboat service is a critical service to the islands of the Bahamas. Certainly, Andrews has always been there and dear to us. That's where we're born and raised. And so we play a crucial role in advancing the growth and development of Andrews. Customers want service and they want consistency. From the start, that's been our commitment. We work to sail on time every time. Our customers have come now to expect this from us. And one of the biggest challenges we've had was finding adequate funding. SPDC from the very start has been a lifesaver. My advice to young people, if you have a vision, a passion, an idea, go for it. Don't give up. It's not easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it. Be consistent and you'll get there.
The Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, Rocky Farms Nursery, J.S. Johnson Insurance, Janae's Fashions, Baja Retreat, and the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of the Bahamas.
Welcome back. Can you believe it? Just like that, our time has come and gone. We would just get into discussing all of these orders, but our time is up. I want to say a special thank you to my guest tonight. Mr. Cooper, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, homeboy. I appreciate it.
We're so proud of what our people are doing here in the nation's capital of the United States of America. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you, brother, for the invite.
Ambassador Nemor, it's always a pleasure talking with you. When we see you, it makes us know that we have good representation around the tables that matter here in the United States of America. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you ever so much. And, you know, leveraging the diaspora is also a part of the network and a part of the strategy as well that we could employ. So
yes,
we could put Brother Cooper to work.
I like him.
I'm ready.
I like him.
I'm ready.
I endorse that.
I'm ready.
I'll sign an executive order to that.
Okay. Count me in.
I've also got to thank all of our sponsors who made this coverage possible. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Bahamas Striping, Ministry of Tourism, Rocky Farms, J.S. Johnson, Janae's Fashion, Baja Retreat, the Bahamas Small Business Development Center. All of you, thank you for making this possible. It's been an exciting time here in Washington, D.C. We head back tomorrow, back home to the Capitol, where it is absolutely warm. We're absolutely warm. We'll be back home tomorrow. And so the entire team that's been here, you've been outstanding making this happen. Thank you all so much for your hard work and your effort. That does it for us from Washington, D.C. Back home tomorrow. We will have a package show for you, though, with some of those extended interviews that we've had. You're going to see that tomorrow night on The Rundown. For all of us here in Washington, D.C., I'm Clint Watson. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night, everyone.